started like a dream, not because it was beautiful but because it didn't feel real. I was inside someone else's life, playing husband, playing father, and praying the role would start to fit. There were moments it almost did. A birthday candle blown out too fast. A shared joke over bad takeout. A blanket left on the couch that smelled like lavender and old shampoo. I told myself these were signs, that I was growing roots. I met Hannah on a Tuesday. I remember that because it was raining, that kind of sideways Texas rain that doesn't cool the air, just thickens it. We were in line at a walk-in clinic. She'd brought Jenna in for a throat swab. I was there for a tetanus booster after slicing my hand on a rusted router box in a crawlspace. She was tired. I could see it in her posture. Not just the exhaustion of a double shift, but the deeper kind. The kind you get when no one has carried anything for you in years. She smiled at me. I smiled back. We talked. Nothing flirty. Just two people leaning into warmth after too many cold years. She told me she was a nurse. Divorced. 2 kids. I told her I did tech installs and support, mostly for small business networks, sometimes residential. She laughed when I told her I once got trapped in an attic with a raccoon. She said I should write a book. I said I don't read. She gave me her number. That was the dream's first thread. The one you tug without knowing it unravels the whole thing. We dated for 4 months before I met the kids. Zach was 15. Played varsity soccer. Sharp jawline, sharper tongue. He sized me up like I was a job interview he didn't ask for. Jenna was 13. Artistic, quiet, a little strange in the way girls are when they live in their heads more than the world. She doodled on napkins and avoided eye contact. The first dinner was at Chili's. Zach ordered steak and didn't say thank you. Jenna colored the kids' menu and left without touching her food. Hannah kept checking her phone. Not texting, just watching the screen light up. I paid the bill. Nobody offered. We started with weekends. They'd come over Friday nights and leave Sunday after lunch. I cleaned before they arrived. Stock snacks I didn't eat. Move my tools out of the guest bathroom. One time Jenna asked, "Why is your place always so clean?" I smiled and said, "Habit." She didn't respond. Then came the excuses. Hannah's apartment is getting fumigated. The upstairs shower is broken. The landlord hasn't fixed the AC. I offered the guest rooms. They accepted. And just like that, they stayed. Moved in like fog. Slow, quiet, and hard to push back once it's inside. I didn't fight it. I wanted to be wanted. But that wasn't what they needed. They needed space. And I didn't realize I was filling someone else's chair at the table. One they never asked to be filled. The signs were always there. Zach never called me by name. Just hey or you. If I reminded him to take out the trash, he'd say, "Yeah, okay," and then forget. If I asked twice, he'd sigh and look to Hannah, waiting for her to translate my words into something real. Jenna would leave lights on, fans spinning, faucets running. I once asked her, gently, "Can you turn off the shower when you're done?" She shrugged and said, "You're paying the water bill, not me." Hannah laughed. She always laughed. Once I brought it up, the little things, the way they ignored me. She said, "They're just kids. You're expecting too much." I asked, "What do they expect of me?" She went quiet. Then she kissed me on the cheek and said, "We're a no-conditions family." I nodded like a fool, like a man who thinks boundaries are barriers to love. So I paid. I paid for everything. Groceries, Wi-Fi, clothes. Zach cracked his phone screen, $200 gone. Jenna needed supplies for her art elective, another $80. Hannah's car needed new brakes, $600 I didn't have, charged to a card I swore I'd cut. No one thanked me. They just kept asking. They didn't ask with words. They asked with silence, with expectation, with eyes that never met mine unless they needed something. I remember a Tuesday night, same day of the week I met Hannah. I came home to find the house loud. Zach had 2 friends over. They were playing something violent on the console I bought, using the flat screen I installed. In the living room I mopped every Saturday. Jenna was upstairs, music leaking from under her door. Hannah was on a Zoom call in the bedroom. I asked calmly if they could turn it down. Just a little. Just enough that the walls didn't pulse. Zach didn't even look at me. He paused the game, turned to one of his friends, a kid with shaggy blonde hair and a mouth full of Doritos, and said, "That's just the backup wallet Mom married." He said it like it was a joke, like I couldn't hear it, but he said it loud enough to echo, loud enough to knock a picture off the shelf behind him, the one of my late mother, the only person who ever believed I'd make something of myself. He didn't turn around, didn't notice the photo hit the floor. I didn't say anything. Not then. His friends didn't laugh. One of them glanced at me. That look, that split second of awkward, almost pity, told me everything I needed to know. They all saw it. They saw the house, the furniture, the man with gray in his beard and tired eyes, standing in the doorway like a stranger in his own life. And in that moment I saw it too. They didn't see love. They saw a transaction. They saw a provider, a service, a man who paid the fees and shut his mouth. I didn't speak. I just went into the kitchen, opened the fridge, closed it again. Nothing looked worth eating. I sat at the table and listened to the game resume, the laughter rise, the door slam when Zach went upstairs. Later that night, I walked past his room. He was on his phone, laughing, talking about someone's car, someone's party, someone's life that didn't involve me. I stood outside his door, staring at the crack of light beneath it. I heard him say, "No, it's fine. He doesn't care. He's just there. Just there. Not stepdad. Not Michael. Just there." The dream finally dissolved. The illusion of family. The belief that time would fix things. That sacrifice could buy acceptance. That night, I lay in bed beside Hannah. She scrolled on her phone. I stared at the ceiling. I didn't bring it up. What would have been the point? She'd say he didn't mean it, that I misunderstood, that it was a joke. But I heard it. I heard it the way you hear a truth someone's been dying to say. I turned toward the wall. The bed felt colder than usual. She didn't notice. The next morning, I left for work early. Sat in the car for 10 minutes before turning the key. I stared at the dashboard at the numbers on the odometer. 78,000 miles. All of them mine. Just like every inch of this life I built. Every bill. Every repair. Every forgotten kindness. I thought of my mother. Of the way she used to say, "Don't let people rent space in your soul for free." I had built a house. Paid the mortgage. Painted the walls. Hung the curtains. And somehow I was still the tenant. That was the moment I knew. The moment I stopped being afraid of what would happen if I said enough. Because the truth is, I was already gone. I just hadn't packed yet. There were signs. There are always signs. Small things at first. A glance held too long or not long enough. Words left unsaid. Moments where a silence means more than a conversation. I saw them all. And I let them pass. Because I wanted to believe. I wanted to believe that love was an equation. Sacrifice in, affection out. That if I kept showing up, kept paying, kept doing everything the man before me had failed to do, I'd be something more than a ghost in their periphery. I worked overtime most weeks. Did side jobs on weekends. I remember standing on a stranger's roof in the rain to rerun coax cable just so I could afford Zach's cleats. The ones he never thanked me for. He left them in the trunk for 2 weeks before wearing them. When I asked if they fit, he shrugged. That was it. A shrug. Jenna asked for a drawing tablet once. "Just a cheap one," she said. "Nothing crazy." I bought her the best mid-tier model I could afford. Researched reviews. Checked warranties. When she opened it, she didn't smile. Just nodded. "Cool," she said, and walked off. That was the closest thing to joy I ever got. Hannah told me once, "You're too sensitive." She said it after dinner. We were washing dishes together. Zach had stormed off after I asked him to help clear the table. Said he had homework. Jenna was already buried in her room. Hannah chuckled and said, "You act like they're supposed to be adults." I said, "I don't need them to be adults. I just need them to see me." She didn't reply, just turned on the garbage disposal and let it drown the rest of the moment. It's not like I expected immediate respect. I knew I wasn't their father. I never claimed to be. But I thought, stupidly, that consistency would count for something. That showing up day after day would matter. But it didn't. They didn't hate me. That would have been easier. Hate has weight. It means you exist. No, they dismissed me. And dismissal is worse than hate. It means you're nothing. Every month they expected more. A new iPad for Jenna, because hers is slow. New tires for Zach's car. A car I'd bought when his grades improved sophomore year. Concert tickets. Subscriptions. Gas money. College prep programs. A new phone for emergencies, which quickly became Instagram and Snapchat and endless data overages. And I kept paying. I paid because I was afraid to stop. Afraid that the only thing tethering me to this family was my wallet. That without the money, the house, the structure I provided, there would be no reason left for them to pretend I mattered. Hannah saw it too. I think she did. She'd say things like, "They're just going through a phase," or "It'll get better when they're older." But she never made them thank me. Never asked them to pitch in. Never told them to pick up their dishes or respect the man who kept the lights on. Once, I mentioned that Jenna had left the fridge open again. She'd walked away mid-snack and left the door wide. Cold air spilling out like breath. Milk on the counter. Grapes half-crushed on a plate. Hannah shrugged. "She's 13. She forgets." I said, "I was 13 once. I didn't forget who paid the bills." She rolled her eyes. "You're not their father." That sentence. Those 5 words. She didn't mean it cruelly. Came out like fact. Like weather. But it stayed with me. It echoed louder than anything Jenna or Zach ever said. You're not their father. And yet, I kept being one. I kept doing the work. I kept filling in the blanks their biological dad never even glanced at. That man, I won't even say his name, he sent birthday cards twice. Both times late. One had a $20 bill inside. The other was blank, like he forgot what a human being was supposed to write. No visits. No calls. No help. But Zach wore his name like a badge. Carried it proudly. Spoke of him like a legend. My real dad used to drive a Mustang. My real dad has a tattoo. My real dad said I'd get a motorcycle when I'm 18. His real dad lived 4 cities over. Couldn't be bothered to show up for a school play, let alone a parent-teacher conference. But that didn't matter. Blood mattered. History mattered. The image of a man who never had to prove himself meant more than the man who cooked breakfast every morning. One night I came home late. It was a Thursday. I remember the air was thick with summer. I'd spent the day helping a small office downtown rewire their Ethernet. A job that was supposed to take 3 hours but turned into 10. I walked through the door. The house was chaos. Jenna was upstairs blasting music. Zach was in the living room yelling at the TV. Some game, lots of gunfire, flashing lights, screaming voices. I stepped in, dropped my tool bag, and asked, not loudly, not rudely, if he could turn it down a bit. He didn't pause the game, just kept mashing buttons. Jenna called something from upstairs. Something about the router cutting out. Zach shouted back that he was using it. They yelled over each other. I stepped in between them, raised my voice a little. Not angry, just firm. Zach turned to me, face flushed, eyes sharp. You're not our dad. You're just the backup wallet mom married. All you do is pay, so maybe just shut up and do that. It landed like a knife. He said it and turned back to his game like it didn't matter. Like he hadn't just pulled the foundation out from under me. Jenna went quiet upstairs. Hannah came down halfway, heard the silence, and went back up without asking a thing. I stood there, staring at the back of Zach's head. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't rise. I didn't yell. I smiled. Because that was the moment everything clicked. I saw it all, the years of giving, the years of bending, the years of being a ghost with a bank account. And I knew. It was time to stop. That night, I didn't go to bed. I waited until the house was quiet. Then I opened my laptop. Logged into the cell provider. His line? Cancelled. Logged into the insurance portal. Removed his name. Opened the title file on the car. Transferred it back to me. I sat in the dark, the glow of the screen painting my face in cold light, and one by one, I began pulling the threads. Threads I had sewn myself. Threads I had believed would tie us together. But threads only hold if everyone wants to be wrapped in them. I wasn't angry. That's the strange part. There was no rage, just clarity. The kind that burns like alcohol on a wound, not loud, just final. I looked through our budget. Rent me, utilities me, groceries me, gas, maintenance, subscriptions, school fees, all me. $3,800 a month, give or take. And what did I get? You're just the backup wallet. So I made a decision. The next morning, over breakfast, I laid it out. Hannah sat across from me. Jenna was already gone for school. Zach was still asleep. I told her I was done. Done paying for phones I didn't use. Cars I didn't drive. Subscriptions I never touched. If she wanted us to be a family, we'd draw it up on paper like adults. Everyone contributes. Everyone respects the structure. Otherwise, they had 60 days to find their own place. She stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "You're really going to do this?" she asked. "I already have." She didn't cry. Not then. She just nodded. Slowly, like she was watching a wall crack. Later that day, Zach tried to fill up the car. Card declined. He texted me. I didn't reply. By nightfall, Jenna asked why her Photoshop wasn't working. Subscription. Cancelled. Hannah walked the halls like a ghost. Whispered on the phone to her friends. Called me cruel. But none of them said thank you. None of them asked what I needed. They only asked why I stopped. And in their asking, they revealed everything. They thought I was bluffing. That I'd fold. That my silence meant surrender. But silence is just the sound of a man sharpening the blade. Zach stormed down the stairs 2 days after I cut him off. Same house, same tone, same sneer, but different stakes. His voice cracked with something new. Fear. "You turned off my data," he barked. I was at practice. I couldn't even call for a ride. I looked up from the kitchen table. My coffee was still hot. My laptop open beside it. Spreadsheet on the screen, one I'd started a few nights back. A full list of every monthly expense tied to their lives. "That's right," I said. He blinked, taken aback. Like he hadn't expected honesty. Like he was still operating under the delusion that his needs were universal law. "You can't just..." I cut him off. Calm, quiet, deadly. "I can. And I did. You don't live in a world where things are free. You live in a house. My house. That I pay for. So yes, I can and I will." He sputtered. Slammed his fist against the wall. Left a small dent near the thermostat. I didn't flinch. Didn't rise. He wanted rage. I gave him peace. That same day, I visited the DMV. Took back the car title. Filed it under my name only. I'd bought it. Registered it. Maintained it. He drove it like a birthright. I let him. That was my sin. Entitlement is never born, it's fed. I stopped feeding it. That evening, Hannah cornered me in the hallway. Jenna was in her room. Zach had disappeared to a friend's house. Probably whining. Probably scheming. "Can we talk?" she asked. I leaned against the wall. Arms crossed. "We can." She hesitated. That rare pause where truth threatens to surface but dies under the weight of comfort. "They're just kids," she started. "This is a lot all at once." "They're not toddlers," I said. "Zach's old enough to drive. Old enough to call me a wallet to my face. That's not a child. That's a man who's been trained to take and never pay." She didn't argue. That told me everything. "They're scared," she whispered. So was I. For years. That night, I typed the notice. A formal document. 60 days. Move out or restructure everything on paper, shared expenses, rent contributions, household expectations. I signed it, printed 3 copies. Left one on Zach's desk. One on Jenna's door and one on the fridge. No shouting. No drama. Just facts. Deadlines. Reality had arrived. The next day, Jenna cried. Quietly. Not theatrical. Just low sobs behind a closed door. I stood outside it, listened for a few seconds, then walked away. Guilt knocked. I didn't open. You can't build someone's backbone for them. They either stand or they don't. Zach retaliated by posting online. Some story about a stepmonster cutting off his future. Left out the part where he called me furniture with a credit card. His friends left comments. That's cold. Not your real dad anyway. One even said, sue him. I didn't reply. Didn't even watch the thread unfold. I logged out. Brewed tea. Sat in the garage and listened to the rain hit the roof like applause. Jenna tried a different angle. Knocked on my office door. Held up her iPad, half broken. It's glitching, she said. I need it for class. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time in years she looked back. Her eyes were tired, not just from crying, from understanding, from seeing the gears behind the curtain finally stop spinning. I'm sorry, she whispered, about what Zach said. You didn't say it, I told her. But I laughed. That hit harder than I expected. I paused. You want this fixed? I asked, pointing at the tablet. She nodded. Then you'll need to start paying for things. Not just money, effort, respect. She didn't reply, just walked away, slower than usual. A week passed, then another. The house grew quieter. Not peaceful, just quiet like the air before a fire takes oxygen from a room. Zach stopped trying to argue. That scared me more than his shouting. It meant he was planning, or spiraling, or both. I overheard him on the phone. He's serious, he whispered. I can't use the car. My accounts are frozen. He even canceled my Spotify. That one made me laugh. Hannah kept floating around, pretending to parent, asking if we could have a real conversation. I offered one. At the dining table. 3 nights in a row. She skipped all 3. Said she was working late. Said she had headaches. Said anything but, I let this happen. Because she had. She'd built a kingdom of one-way love, and I was the bridge they crossed to reach comfort. That bridge was gone now. Midway through the 2nd week, Zach came home with a bill. Printed. Stamped. His car insurance unpaid. The same one I used to autodraft without a second thought. He dropped it on the table in front of me like a challenge. You're gonna let my coverage lapse? I already did. He stared at me. His lip curled. So what now? I'm supposed to just, what? Walk? I didn't smile. Not this time. You're supposed to figure it out. Like men do. Like I did. When I was your age, I walked to every interview I could find. Sold my Xbox. Worked weekends. Shared a room with 2 guys and a broken air conditioner. You think you're owed something because I married your mother? That makes you her son. It doesn't make me your slave. He didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stood there, held in place by a truth too big to swallow. Then he turned. Walked out. No slamming. No stomping. That silence? That was respect beginning to bloom. Painfully, but real. The next morning I got an email. From the bank. Someone tried to use the card tied to Jenna's streaming apps. Declined. I left it that way. No note. No warning. Let them feel the walls shrink. Let them taste the world without padding. By the end of the month, things had changed. The fridge had food because I put it there. No one else did. The trash stayed full until I took it out. The dishes stacked up until I washed them. I was alone. Still in a house full of people. But now the illusion was gone. They didn't care. And I finally stopped pretending I did. On the 29th day, Hannah came to me. No makeup. No excuses. We can't do this, she said. Can't do what? Live like this. You're punishing them. No, I said. I'm letting them feel consequences. She sat down. For the first time in months. Zach might fail this semester. Jenna's asking if she needs a job. This isn't sustainable. I looked her in the eyes. Then leave. She flinched. You have 31 days left. Or we draft a new agreement. Everyone pays. Everyone respects. Or you go. Simple. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Tried again. I never wanted this. No. You wanted someone to clean up Todd's mess. You just didn't want him to ask for a mop. She started crying. Not loud. Just tears that dropped into her lap like coins into a well. I let her cry, but I didn't reach across the table. Not this time. Because when a man is used up, hollowed out, and still expected to give, what's left is not love. It's survival. And I was done surviving for other people. 2 days later, Zach tried one last move. He brought up college. My grades are good, he said. I can get into UT, maybe A&M, but I can't apply without help. Fees, essays, all of that. I nodded. He stared at me, finally asked, "Will you help?" "Depends," I said. "Are you ready to earn it?" He didn't answer, didn't say thank you, or sorry, or anything human. He just left the room. And in that moment, I knew the answer was no. So I went back to my spreadsheet, crossed out college fund, wrote life lesson instead. They didn't believe I'd see it through. Most people don't. They think men like me, quiet men, steady men, are made of rubber bands that will keep stretching, keep bending, keep absorbing until the day we just snap. But I didn't snap. I disappeared. 60 days came and went. No restructure, no signatures, no attempt at change. Just whispers behind closed doors. Glances that carried all the weight of a goodbye none of them had the guts to say aloud. So I said it for them. On day 61 I helped pack boxes. Not out of spite. Not out of vengeance. Out of obligation, the final one I'd ever honor. Zach packed like a soldier. Fast, angry, careless. Broke a lamp I paid for. Didn't apologize. Didn't even flinch. Jenna took her time. Folded each hoodie like she was laying a body to rest. Hannah supervised. She gave orders like she still had a kingdom to protect. None of them looked at me. I hauled boxes down the stairs. Loaded the back of Hannah's SUV. Strapped down crates I'd never see again. That was the irony. I was the last one to lift a finger. As always, before they left, Jenna lingered. She held something in her hand. A folded piece of paper. Didn't give it to me. Just placed it on the table and walked out. I waited until the engine started before I touched it. 3 words. Handwritten. I get it. That's all. No name. No sorry. Just that. I read it once. Then I burned it in the sink. Some truths deserve flame, not forgiveness. They moved into a small apartment 3 miles away. A 2-bedroom above a shuttered liquor store. No lawn. No garage. No quiet street with neighbors who waved. I know because I drove by once. Just once. The next month, my expenses dropped by 73%. That's not poetic exaggeration. I kept the spreadsheet. Cell phone plan, mine alone now. Food enough for one. No more vanishing leftovers. No more mystery Amazon charges. No more late-night emergency gas station runs for ice cream and energy drinks. The silence was louder than I expected. No music. No fighting. No footsteps above mine. I could hear the refrigerator hum. The wind press against the windows. The clink of my spoon against a cereal bowl at 10 p.m. For the first time in years, my home was mine. It was peace. And it was terrifying. But the thing about silence, if you sit in it long enough, it starts to sound like truth. 3 months later, the email came. Subject line, "Hey." No punctuation. No warmth. Just a flicker of uncertainty. Blinking like a dying bulb. I opened it. It's Zach. Mom's crying a lot. Bills are heavy. I didn't get it before. I do now. I'm sorry. No demands. No begging. Just that. I read it twice. Then I wrote back. Too late. But thank you. Turns out the backup wallet had a pretty solid strategy. And I hit send. I didn't think I'd feel anything. But I did. Not triumph. Not closure. Just done. Hannah never reached out. I don't know if that was pride or punishment. Maybe both. But it didn't matter. I'd already had my funeral for that version of me. The man who bent. The man who bled. The man who believed that love would eventually be returned if you just kept handing it out in envelopes and invoices. That man is dead. He died the night his stepson called him a wallet. What's left is something colder, but stronger. I kept the house, kept the job, upgraded the water heater, bought a new couch, Burned the one they used to pile their crap on. The old one smelled like Axe body spray and bad memory. The new one smells like leather and a fresh start. Friends started noticing. Asking, "You seem lighter," one said. "Cleaned house," I answered. He laughed. Didn't ask what I meant. Most people don't want the truth. They want a version that fits inside their comfort zone. A sitcom fix. A heartfelt apology and a group hug. But this isn't a sitcom. This is real life. And real life doesn't give you neat little endings. It gives you scars. The thing people don't understand about stepfathers is this. We sign up for a contract no one else reads. We walk into a war where we're not allowed to wear the uniform. We raise someone else's child with someone else's name and someone else's eyes. And we do it silently. Because we're told, if you love them like your own, they'll love you back. That's a lie. What they meant was, if you love them like your own, they'll let you pay for everything while calling someone else dad. Zach's email proved it. 3 months of bills cracked him faster than 3 years of advice. Turns out money has a voice they can actually hear. I hope he finds his way. I hope Jenna doesn't inherit her mother's silence. I hope Hannah learns what boundaries feel like. But none of that is my burden now. Because I'm done being the man who builds castles for people who keep spitting on the bricks. I've changed the locks. Changed the air filters. Changed my name on the emergency contact form at work. They'll remember me, sure. You don't forget the man who paid for your life, even if you pretend you do. You don't forget the silence after the safety net disappears. They'll tell stories about me one day, at a dinner table I won't sit at, in a room I'll never enter again. Maybe they'll call me cruel. Maybe they'll say I abandoned them. But here's the truth. I was never with them. Not really. They were passengers in a car I drove with both hands. They just never looked up long enough to notice the crash coming. Now they're walking, and I'm still driving. Alone, but free. So now I ask you, whoever you are, the stranger hearing all this, was I wrong? Was I cruel to demand the one thing I gave in endless supply? Respect. Would you have stayed? Would you have kept paying for your own erasure? Or would you, like me, finally close the door and let the silence say the rest?